So just so everyone knows, your network can participate by joining your team as a fundraising participant, joining your team as a non-fundraising participant, or donating to your team. So with all of that being said in the introduction, I wanted to introduce our panelists. Our group of panelists are going to share tonight what motivates them and how they approach fundraising every year. And you will take away ideas to take your fundraising efforts to new heights. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves and stop sharing my presentation. So we'll go ahead and start off with Mark, who's joining us as a captain from Bakersfield, California.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being a part of tonight's event. Hopefully, we'll share some good fundraising tips and information for you to implement in your personal events, and whether you're an individual fundraiser or a Strides for CJD captain. But my name, as Christine said, is Mark Corum, and I am the co-captain of Strides for CJD Bakersfield in California. We're 2 hours north of Los Angeles. And I got involved with CJD and Strides for CJD after my boss and my mentor of 22 years passed away from the sporadic form on May 19th, 2018, just 2 weeks and 7 hours after his diagnosis. So it was quick, like I'm sure many of you have experienced. 2024 will be our 7th annual Strides for CJD Bakersfield, and that's a regional event for families to participate in from Central and Southern California. And to date, since 2018, we've raised over $451,000, and we've continued to be the top fundraising team in the U.S. since 2018. So we're just really happy to be a part of this group. Thank you.
Let's kick it off to Nancy.
All right. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. My name is Nancy Sweely. I am the captain for Brownton, Minnesota, Strides for CJD. We are about an hour west of Minneapolis, St. Paul, a small town. This is our 5th year hosting Strides for CJD. And we got involved in 2020 after my sister-in-law, Brenda Miller, passed away from sporadic CJD. And she, I guess, survived the illness for about 8 months. And it was a huge learning curve for us. So when we really stepped back and thought about it, it was like, what can we do to help other families going through something like this? One thing that she had the presence to do during her illness early on, her niece was one of her caregivers, and she was going to school for physical therapy, and she asked that she be a caregiver so she could learn from this disease and help her be a better therapist. So thinking about that, it was like, wow, what can we do to learn from this and help others? So that's why we got involved in Strides for CJD, as well as a wonderful video that was on the CJD Foundation's website called That Somebody Is Me. That video really spoke to me, and it was like growing up, my parents always said, if you're going to complain about it, you better try to do something about it. So we started raising funds and trying to pay it forward and finding something good out of this disease that has affected our family.
Next up, we'll have Shannon introduce herself.
Yeah, hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Shannon Romano. I'm down here in Jacksonville, Florida. This coming year will be my 2nd Strides for CJD. I started participating last year. My husband passed away about 18 months ago from genetic CJD, and he was preceded in death by his mother 20 years ago. I was on St. Patrick's Day, actually, this year. This is still really hard for me, but I'm here today because of the care that I received and the just the feeling that I had when I actually participated in the the CJD Family Foundation just a year ago. Walking out of that conference, I felt so connected to so many of you. I'm sure I met a lot of you, and probably we'll see you again this year. Probably seeing your faces in person will jar a lot of memories. But the reason I'm here is just for all the reasons that Mark and Nancy have shared. I'm here to really deliver some things that came out of the bad and really deliver some good things when it comes to what we're doing from a CJD research, education, and awareness standpoint. I will do anything to ensure that families like mine and yours don't have to go through things like we did before. I'm specifically focused on the educational components. I know a lot of us have really, when we were going through that process, the doctors and the diagnosis was super hard, and there were glimmers of hope along the way. And for us, it was only 57 days from the time we had a symptom till my husband passing, and we really only had 7 days from the day he was diagnosed till he passed. So that's why I'm here. My husband used to always tell me, Shannon, he said, you're the biggest empath I know. That's the number one thing he said. But he said, always use your powers for good. And once he left me, I really understood what that meant. That's why I'm here today, working with you all. So glad to be here.
Thanks so much, Shannon. And finally, we have Glenn.
Hi, I'm Glenn Mouritzen from San Diego, California. Currently live in Bonita, a little south of San Diego. My wife, Rosie, passed away this past October. She meant the world to us. I unfortunately also saw her brother pass from this, and he was diagnosed after 2 months in the hospital. And then in hindsight, we believe her mother also passed away from the same disease. Just judging by the symptoms, they had misdiagnosed her with accelerated Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. So last October, I promised Rosie that I would do something about it. We have 2 children and 2 grandchildren, and we want to make sure we do everything we can to not see this happen again. So I'm here all in for the CJD Foundation. I've participated already in the advocacy last March. I met a lot of these fine people, and this will be my first strides. I will either create a walk as a team leader, or actually possibly doing a captain role as well here in San Diego, which hasn't been announced yet, but that's what I'm working towards.
That's awesome. Well, Glenn, I'm going to kick the first question to you, and then we'll get to other people. I think, there's obviously a lot going on with Strides for CJD with different locations and so many participants and teams. So how do you get started? And since it's going to be your first year, how are you thinking about, getting everything running for your first time?
Yeah, since I'm a novice, I'm relying heavily on what's already set up on the website for setting up the team. I've already started. It's fairly straightforward. I got my blurb on there. I've made my personal donation. I'm also going to rely heavily on experience I've had fundraising for a social club or a charitable club called the Optimist International, part of the Point Loma Optimist here in San Diego for the last 30 years. And I've run 3 of their large events. And so I know a little bit about it. I plan on using quite a bit of social media to promote my walk, and also bringing in my adult children who are quite a network themselves. My daughter's the second in charge of the junior league here in San Diego, and my son's in Texas, but I know he'll be all in. And the other things I'll be doing will be some targeted emails to everybody that came to Rosie's memorial. We had about 400 people. I do have to send emails to some of my Optimist members. Some of these guys don't use social media, so I'll be doing a lot of that. And also I'll seek out some corporate sponsors from those same contacts. So that's my plan.
Well, it sounds like a really great one, and hopefully some people are taking notes on that. And You know, it's just about getting started and getting your feet wet, and there's no wrong way to kind of get started.
I would also add, I've been sharing a lot of Rosie's story and our story, and my last one, I did suggest that we were going to be doing something this fall, and there's been quite a response of people saying that they want to participate. They don't know exactly what they're doing yet, but they will be participating. So.
It's awesome, putting the feelers out early. It's great.
Yeah.
I wanted to also hear from Shannon. I know that I think this is going to be your second year doing strides, and you learned a lot from the first year. So I'm curious to hear your story about what you're doing this year.
Yeah, I definitely did learn a lot because I kind of like dove in head first. So the way I actually got started, as I mentioned, I joined the first CJD family conference last July, which was really my first interaction with a lot of you. And I talked to Lori probably the month before. And coming out of that conference, I was sitting in Washington Dulles waiting to get on my plane to fly back to Jacksonville, probably having a glass of wine and kind of thinking retrospectively about what I had encountered over the course of the couple of days where I had met so many of you, learned so much about CJD. I walked out of that room out of that conference feeling super hopeful and so much more connected with people that understand me and what I'm going through. So as I was sitting there in the airport, I said, you know what? My birthday's in like 3 days. People do Facebook fundraisers all the time. So, you know, why don't I do that? So I dipped my toe into testing the waters in terms of what it would feel like to do some fundraising on behalf of CJD. Well, also, that was the first time I actually told the world broadly what had happened to my husband. Like I had mentioned, he passed in 57 days. 1 minute he was here, we were at a baseball game, the next minute he's gone. And there was a lot of people that had questions and I didn't know how to answer them. So that was sort of my first way into just my pathway into CJD and how I was going to connect my life to that. So in that short 7-day fundraiser, I was able to raise $1,000, and it really made me think, you know what, if I can do this in Facebook, what can I do to support CJD through Strides? And I'd learned a little bit about Strides during the conference. You know, specifically, I'd spent a lot of time with Lori and Paul and Shelly, you're on tonight too. You guys really were kind of the inspiration for me to say, I can do this. So I reached out to Lori and Rachel and said, okay, I want to do this. How do I do this? So they helped me through the registration process. I got my page up, was ready to go. That was the middle of August. And then I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Not because I didn't know what to do, but because the thought process, if some of you are new here, telling that story for the first time, if you haven't done it, and multiple times, I can tell you, like doing it over and over again isn't any easier. But it literally took me 4 or 5 weeks to write the story, writing, deleting, and like kind of climbing in my head, climbing out. And so I finally, I also work in marketing for a living. So I have some people that literally kind of, you know, took me by the shirt and said, come on, Shannon, you got this. So when I finally landed on a spot in terms of where I felt good with my message, in terms of how I was going to share my personal story, how I was connecting it to what CJD is, because a lot of people don't know what CJD is. And then how I connected that to the mission, because I really wanted people to understand that what had happened to us here and what the underlying, you know, diagnosis is and how we have to get to need that support for the mission. I put that out there, and I didn't put that out there until September 22nd, which was 18 days before our walk, which was on October 7th in Bonita Springs, thanks to my team captain, Paul. And in those 18 days with my little ambassador network, we raised another $9,000. And that additional $9,000 on top of my $1,000 got me to almost $10,000, or got me to $10,000. And I was the top fundraiser for Bonita Springs, which was amazing for me because I wasn't even a year into this. My husband, the walk was on October 7th. My husband hadn't been gone more than 11 months. It was also the day before our 7-year anniversary, which also to me was probably my fondest anniversary gift I'll get, which was dedicating my time and my efforts to his honor and to the work we're doing. So what I want to like kind of wrap this up with is part of my process was I found my way in by leaning on my friends and my family, and I created them in kind of a role of an ambassador to Team Queso. And what that meant was I was turning to them for helping with proofreading. And helping me climb out of my head. But then also when it came time to put that story out there, they were my biggest advocates and proponents for pushing things out on their social media channels and telling their families and their networks about our story and the importance of what it meant to me and the importance of what it meant to them as my friend, my family, as I was their friend, their family, their colleague, right? So that's really how I started and how I got to where I was. And I'll leave you with this notion, because I've been thinking a lot about how I wanted to talk about this tonight. Don't ever, ever be afraid to ask for help, especially in this, especially in what we've all been through. We all understand our friends and family who've surrounded us through, watching us care for our loved one as they were passing from this terrible disease. Don't be afraid to ask. They will help. Even if it's proofreading your note and your story on your page, the people that you know and rely on will help. So do not lose sight of, there's so many people around you that want to help you do as much as you can to make an impact for CJD and to honor your loved one the way that my friends and family did for me and Chuck. I hope I didn't talk too long.
No, that's, I love the concept of, extending your network through your network. So each person, you're amplifying that much more and spreading that much more awareness. So that's really a smart approach. And you obviously were really successful in year one, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I also want to hear from Nancy. She's been the captain of Brownton for quite a while. So if you could share a little bit about your approach.
Sure. We are from a small town, like I said, west of the Twin Cities. So I definitely also lean into our network. What organizations are local that donate to different causes like this. With the medical research, we're able to get support from a few different organizations that way. I do have a spreadsheet of those who donate. And so I do go back to them year over year, as well as a list of some that maybe hadn't, or ideas for next year if I missed. A lot of larger organizations have a cutoff line. And if I've missed that this year, then I'll go back to them next year. And then I also make a list that I reach out to of my brother, the one who lost his wife, is self-employed. So I pull him and his sons who are in the business for all the people, like the vendors they use, the people that they do business with that might be interested in supporting this cause. So we send out the national fundraising letter that we get from the CJD Foundation. And then along with that, I customized a Brownton kind of a cover letter that gives our story, and then also the statistics from the prior year, how many people attended, how the funds we raised, and then asking for their support this year as we continue to try and raise awareness, raise funds for research, and also the family support, which is really important. We took advantage of that. And it's if you haven't taken advantage of that in a support group, I think they're great that the foundation offers. It's this is definitely a club that I never wanted to be a part of. No offense to anybody, but a lot of people don't understand just the sheer quickness of the disease. And so it's really a great resource to utilize through the foundation, because the people on the calls really understand what you're going through. That came to light last year for me when we were on Capitol Hill advocating for funds, and the advocate that the foundation provided to go with me just mentioned, when you talk to these people, they'll probably never meet anybody with CJD because it is such a, quick disease in most cases. So they aren't able to go to Capitol Hill themselves. We're representing them. The other thing, I guess, as far as raising funds, start early. I know in January, I already had our list going, proofing our letter to go out, because a lot of bigger organizations decide their fundraising early in the year. So we try to get those sent out early so we can get on their list for donation. And then, like I said, I enlist my brother and his sons. And then we have a group chat with the all of my main volunteers for the event. And then I'll send out a message to them asking if they have, if their employer does, charitable donations, would they consider donating? And then I send them our cover letter as well as the national letter. So a lot of networking and a lot of great support from family and friends.
Thanks so much for those tips. And even though I know you got started in January, it's never too late. That's why we're here
absolutely
today.
not.
And a lot of people don't kick off until, it could be 3 days before the event and it still makes a difference. So,
Absolutely.
so we're going to our next question. And I wanted to share first that teams who raise at least $1,000 will have their loved ones' names on the shirt. And that is usually what we set the kind of like standard fundraising goal within our fundraising platform at. Because of that reason, it's a great way to drive the remembrance for your loved one. But we also have teams who are raising a lot more money than that. And so I'm curious about how you structure your goals to reach your overall goal and structure your kind of outreach and approach. And I wanted to start off with Mark, who mentioned that they are the top fundraising team for many, many years and always crushing it. So I was hoping Mark could start by sharing his approach.
Thanks, Christine. Well, 6 years ago, I never dreamt that I would be using my media relations marketing skills, taking them to the table to help support the CJD Foundation. But I was able to use that and actually draw from Mr. Hall, my mentor who passed away. He was a prominent business owner. He was the founder of Hall Ambulance in Bakersfield, one of 17 considered by the National EMS Museum and the California Ambulance Association of one of 17 pioneers from California who influenced EMS, emergency medical services across the U.S. So he's well known. He was also Bakersfield's 25th and longest serving mayor. So we were able to use those opportunities to be able to reach out to his contacts in the business and political arenas, and then use my skills along with Mrs. Hall's leadership experience and her circles of influence to reach out and start building and letting people know that this is something we become passionate about and want to help support the foundation and raise funds to support medical research. So our tactics, which I'll go about and cover, I think in the next question, much more in depth. We use a variety of tactics and methods depending on the different demographic groups that we're trying to reach and finding ways that they are most comfortable with communicating. I think Glenn had mentioned, some of his folks that he interacts with, maybe they don't use social media. And so he'll reach out by an email or a letter. I'll talk about the benefit of a handwritten or a hand-signed letter, even a phone call, reaching out to people in your circles of influence and letting them know what you're doing and getting them involved. For us, it usually takes anywhere from 3 to 6 touches or contacts before we see a response that somebody wants to get on board, either as a registered participant to come out and walk at our Strides for CJD event, or as a donor or a sponsor. Sometimes, and we've had some people from the very beginning that have been involved since the very first one in 2018, as soon as they get the first ask from us, they respond and say, we're on board. And they've done that every year since. So just kind of, I think the biggest thing is, one, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone or send an email or do a post on your social media. And don't be afraid to do it time and time again. And as you have opportunities, as things are progressing closer to your Strides event, find different things that you can use to talk about and get the message out there that you're still, we're $500 or we're $1,000 and want to get to $1,500 or whatever our goal is. And the fundraising deadline is coming up, or the t-shirt deadline is coming up. Christine mentioned about the $1,000 can get you on a t-shirt. Use those deadlines to your advantage to kind of motivate people to want to get them involved and donate to your cause.
It's a very good point. We call that in marketing your call to action. So having the deadlines are really helpful for that. And we also have an actual kind of promotional schedule with sample emails, sample social posts, sample text messages for you that we're going to send out after this call that hopefully will, put all of this into action. So I just wanted to give a little plug for that. Okay, so our third question, we have Shannon who's going to talk to this question as well, because she has a really smart way to think about goal setting.
Well, and Mark and I, we use our marketing powers for good, and he touched on a few things that I'll touch on as well. As I kind of talked about earlier, I kind of went head first last year, didn't really have a plan, just kind of flew by the seat of my pants. That's not my normal approach to things. And when I got to thinking about how I wanted to lean into my fundraising approach this year, I went back into some of my marketing tenets and found the SMART goal approach that I'm going to hold myself accountable to this year, which basically stands for being specific. So each letter in the word SMART stands for something. So the S really stands for specificity. So there's a lot of things you can do to cast your net and to start to communicate your fundraising opportunity, but you don't have to do everything in order to accomplish what you're trying to do. So be specific in the things that you want to do. Don't bite off more than you can chew. I say this all the time at work, and I say this to myself in this endeavor. You don't have to do 1,000 things to earn $1,000, right? We can do 3 things really smart. So stay focused and be specific. The second thing is the M in SMART stands for measurable. So you want to set yourself up to measure your goals, track your goals, and hold yourself accountable to what you're trying to accomplish. So for example, if I was trying to raise $1,000 this year and I launched my fundraising campaign in June, leveraging social media, and my goal was to hit $1,000 by say August 5th. I'm sorry, I don't remember our fundraising deadline, and I should. Since part of it is understanding the timing. But if I hit half of my goal in the June 15th timeframe when I launched that first social post, it kind of gives you a benchmark to hold yourself accountable to, okay, I have another 5 weeks to deliver another $500 to hit my goal, or are there other opportunities where I can push out and meet my goal or overachieve in my goal, that is. So you want to make sure that you're also focused on measuring and accounting for what you're putting out there, and that it's growing your fundraising base, if you will. The A in SMART stands for attainable. So you want to set a goal that's attainable for yourself as well. So let's say last year you raised $1,000. Well, this year you're coming back and you say, I want to do 1,000, but give yourself a challenge, but don't challenge yourself that you're going to double that. Look at like adding 10%, 15%, 20%. Add to your goal something that you feel that's attainable and accomplishable to yourselves and what you're comfortable doing. The R in SMART really stands for how you're creating your opportunity from a fundraising standpoint and making it relatable to what we're doing. What are we trying to accomplish, right? That relatability is our story, and connecting back to that mission of heightening awareness, delivering on educational programs that the foundation works on, and making sure that our families our families today and those families that are going through CJD today also get the support that they need. And most importantly, we're delivering on the resources from a fundraising standpoint to deliver to our research communities that are working diligently to get a treatment and ultimately a cure. And then the last piece is the timing, which is you need to make sure you tell people when we need to accomplish these things by. And if it's the goal of getting your loved one's name on the t-shirt, call that out there. I need to earn $1,000 by, I'm going to say August 5th, because that is my husband's birthday and that is the date in August. It's stuck in my head, so sorry. But you want to hold yourselves accountable to that and make sure that the people that you're communicating with know, because a lot of times people see it and go, I want to do that, and then they forget about it, and then the time passes. So ensuring that date is front and center is always something that you want to ensure is there. So I'm going to use my SMART process, and I'd hope that if you guys want to talk to me more about what this looks like, I have charts because I'm a marketing person, and I know my background is blocking that, so sorry. but I can help you with some of this as well. So what I'd like to kind of wrap up here is once you kind of landed on your goal setting process for this year, is think about how you're going to get there. You can use SMART, you can use your own process, but think about how you're getting there, but then also think about how you can recruit your ambassadors or other team members. As I mentioned at how I kind of got started, I'm going to continue to lean on recruiting my friends, my family, my colleagues to be ambassadors and part of my team, because that is a crucial way for me to continue to drive my results for how I'm driving my fundraising process for Team Queso. So the way I'm doing that this year, last year I just had a small group of people because I really wasn't sure what I was doing. Now I'm pretty sure what I'm doing. So when I look at my network and the communities that I live in and on a daily basis, I have my friend community, my family community, my colleagues, my husband's military community. He has a whole group of people from high school, a whole group of people from just living in New Jersey. I'm now working with what I'll call a team leader, or my team leader in the ambassador realm, in each one of those categories to help me spread the word about Strides for CJD, what we're trying to accomplish as a foundation together, and also to ensure that we keep the memory of my husband, Chuck Romano, alive for many, many years to come. So that's how I'm approaching my fundraising this year. I'm using my SMART methodology and process, and then really leaning in on those communities that I'm connected to on a regular basis, just based on, the world that I live in. And then I'm going to end with one more thing, and I've talked to Lori and Rachel and Debbie about this in particular. For me, I want to cast that net to deliver on my fundraising goals and to really drive the things that the resources we need to support the foundation from a financial and monetary standpoint. But one of the other things that I'm really going to be focused on this year is, at the beginning, Christine showed all of those locations where all of these walks are happening. I'm from California originally. You got a lot of Californians on here tonight, even though I'm on the East Coast. I'm from California. My husband's from Jersey. My aunts and uncles are in Minnesota. I have colleagues in Chicago, colleagues all over the country, friends and family all over the country. I also want to encourage those friends and family colleagues to show up and walk with us. I think that's one of the most important things for us to not only show our financial support through fundraising, but also to show our unity for our loved ones and for those of us that are continually, grieving and fighting for a cure. So that is what I'll be doing this year. And like I said, I'm happy to have conversations with any of you here tonight. Paul's stuck with me in Southwest Florida. So is Shelly. So, we talk on a fairly regular basis, or at least through text, but I'm happy to be a resource and a sounding board, just as my friends and family were for me a year ago.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Shannon. I can tell you're type A, very organized and very methodological, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, thank you.
Organized
and passionate.
And passionate. So yes, and thanks for offering to meet with people. So we can probably grab your email to share out with.
Yep, of course.
So now getting into our next question. What are some proven outreach strategies that you utilize? And I know Mark had put together some actual visuals for his chat, so I'm going to share those and turn it over to Mark.
Terrific. Thanks, Christine. So as I mentioned before, we do quite a few different ways of communicating and helping to get the word out. I should note that I'll be highlighting tactics that can be used by you individual fundraisers, the letters, emails, social media posts, as well as there are some things that I'll be showing that are more so limited to Strides event captains that they can use but require approval from the CJD Foundation, such as press releases, flyers, and finding a media partner, a TV station, maybe to work with you and do public service announcements. But the first one that we see here is just a sample of one of the email marketing pieces we did last year. I use Constant Contact. It's a great, fairly inexpensive way to do email marketing and get your message out to a lot of people in your database. And so we just upload all the emails that all of us have that we've been in contact with through the years, either through the company or people that have become involved by supporting the CJD event. And so it's pretty straightforward. We have there, join us in memory of Mayor Harvey Hall and support the critical work of the CJD Foundation. We show the event details, the date, location. Under that, again, we talked about using deadlines to your advantage. We had the fundraising deadline last year of September 7th. Help us keep on top as a top fundraising team. And then, of course, very important is to have your donation link. And so they can donate, in this case, to Team Big H. Then the next section with the gold background is Mrs. Hall and I showing how we're making an impact in our CJD journey. And so this highlights us at the family conference last year in Washington, which if you go, come back. And if you haven't been, it's certainly worth the trip to be a part of that, like has already been discussed today. So we kind of highlighted some of that. And then at the bottom is the register for the Team Big H. So we have them the opportunity to donate and or register for the walk. And then on the next page, I'd mentioned letters, personal letters, even better handwritten letters, but in this case, hand-signed letters. These are from Mrs. Hall. This particular one is a copy of a letter that went to Joe Gregory at a technology services group that's actually a vendor for Hall Ambulance. So it's a past sponsor letter. You can see that we start with thanking them for their past support. We share with them what we've accomplished since we've been involved with the foundation and our Strides for CJD event. We share information about this year's event info, and then, of course, we ask for their continued support. The next page is a letter again. This one is to folks or businesses that haven't supported our event, our Strides for CJD Bakersfield event, or Team Big H in memory of Harvey Hall event in the past. This letter was sent out to the membership of the Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce. And so if you belong to a Chamber of Commerce organization, any other kind of organization, so you can get their membership list. It'll let you use that to reach out and solicit fundraising for your event. And in many cases, they'll allow you to do that if you've been involved. Again, we show them the background, what is CJD, what we've accomplished in the last year, info on this year's event, and again, ask for their support. And again, all of these letters are hand signed by Mrs. Hall to give that personal touch. Never, never, never send a form letter. If you receive a form letter or an email, I take it and file it in the waste bin. So make sure you personalize it. You add their name. This is a mail merge letter. That's why you don't see where it says "Dear." When it compiles it, it adds in their personal information to make it personalized to them. The next page, walk with us in remembrance of Mr. Hall. This is the first page of our flyer that we put out each year. It's got all of the necessary information, including the date, 6th Annual Strides for CJD Bakersfield, the location. We push give them some reason to get signed up early, the early bird registration. So give them a little bit of cost savings for an adult or a child of 12 and under. Get their T-shirt if they register before August 23rd, in this case for last year. We provide the QR code. I know the CJD Foundation provides that to all the team captains for each of their events across the United States. And so that will go directly to your team, make it easier for them to find more information about and to register and donate. Then if you'll scroll to the next page, that's the back side of the page 2 of the same flyer. We break out and make it simple for our people that we're trying to solicit funds from. We break out the sponsorship opportunities, show them what's involved or what's included for the premier, the diamond, or the platinum, down to the bronze sponsor. And then there on the left-hand side, you'll see that we say that there's 4 easy ways to be able to complete and submit your registration or application, your donations. They can do it online, which takes them to the CJD Strides website. They can scan the QR code, again, listed there. They can email this form to me. And this is a fillable PDF that we offer them if they receive it online. So it's easy for them to complete. And last but not least, they can print it, fill it out, and mail it back to me at the company address. And so just another opportunity. We send these through all of our emails, all of our written letters that we just showed. We print them out and have them around our company. We drop them off at a lot of our partners and other businesses in town, and anywhere we think that we may be able to reach somebody that would be interested in either registering and walking or donating to our event. This next page that Christine is showing is the CJD Foundation makes it possible or offers up to do a company match. So when you register for a Strides event, you'll see on the registration page that they'll ask if you have a company match option for your employer, which in our case, Hall Ambulance does. And we go one step further. We do the company match, and we also offer a payroll deduction. And so we give them information about Mr. Hall. Then on the next page, we show them we do a company match up to $250. So if somebody donates $250, that becomes a $500 donation, so on and so forth. So then you can see there, again, we try and push the early bird rates to get that done this year before through September 5th. Then you can see how, in our case, we allow them to spread their payments over 9 different pay periods to make it easy for them. They complete this form and submit it to our controller in administration. Here's an easy thing that everybody can do: your social media, your Facebook, your Instagram, your X, TikTok. It's affordable, it's effective, it's a great way to fundraise and create awareness. These are just some examples. Probably can't really read what they are, but if you go to the Strides or CJD Bakersfield page on Facebook, you can take a look at all of our postings. But we just kind of use it as an opportunity to give updates on our activities. The middle one is a copy or a post that we partnered with the 23 ABC affiliate to do a PSA that I think we may be showing later. That top right is an opportunity where we took to thank all of our sponsors. Make sure that you give plenty of love and gratitude to your sponsors throughout the duration of the event, before, during, and after, because you hopefully want them to come back and be a part of your event next year. The middle right is a picture of me receiving a very large check, in this case from the Kiwanis Club, Westchester Kiwanis in Bakersfield. They've invited me for the last 2 years to come and speak at their event, and this last year they actually made a donation for $2,000 to Team Big H in memory of Harvey L. Hall. And I'll speak more about organizations and speaking at service clubs later. And then we can go to the next page. Here's just an example of a news release that we sent out. Again, it's an effective way to promote your Strides event. This is typically reserved for captains, as long as you work through the foundation and get these materials approved beforehand, or I believe they have templates that you can personalize and make localized to your own event. But a great way to create awareness of your CJD event and potentially secure participants and sponsors. We've actually had people that have shown up at our events that said, "Oh, I saw an article in this case, the Bakersfield Californian, a couple of days before our event last year," and they'd read the article. Her father had passed away in the 90s from CJD. She didn't know that our event, despite all of my great marketing efforts, didn't know that our event happened in Bakersfield, but she and her husband came out and walked, and so it was great. It shows that getting that message out to the media. Also, I'll add, I didn't have this part of my presentation, I'll add, use community billboards, usually offered through the newspapers or the Chamber of Commerce or the Convention and Visitors Bureau, or a community calendar. Make sure you submit your information for your event. And then finally, the last page, I don't know if we still have it. You can scroll a little bit, but there is a page. It's a cover story that we received as a result of our news release. That was a cover story in the Bakersfield Californian. I don't know if you, yeah, there you go. So they came out and spent the morning with us, their photog and reporter, and they did a photo essay, and then it was on the cover of the Californian, and then a jump page, I think it was on page A4, showing a kind of a highlight of the activities that took place at our event last year. So those are all great opportunities to employ. And like Shannon said, I'm more than happy to guide and give you advice and direction and help you build your event, whether it's a Strides event or as an individual fundraiser.
Thanks so much, Mark, for putting those examples together and sharing some of your expertise with us. So we're gonna move on to our, I think, gonna be the final question of the evening. I also wanted to say, I know that we had several questions asked during the registration process, which I don't think we're going to have time to get to today, but we will be following up with you directly after the meeting later this week to answer those questions. So this one will be a round robin, and I'll start with Nancy. If there's one thing that you would focus on to elevate your Strides fundraising this year, what is it?
So this year, one thing we're trying to focus on is more social media presence. I would say it's okay to ask for help. So I typically try to probably do too much. So I've enlisted one of our daughters who's taking over the social media posts and trying to add not only to Facebook, but as well to Instagram, maybe doing some, videos, that type of thing. So that is one thing we're focusing on, as well as some in-person events. We have two non-CJD events where we often have a booth, so to speak. And our youngest daughter will often work that. She attended the family conference with me last year. So she's pretty well versed in explaining the disease. And I think sometimes that in-person touch point is great because people come to our little booth. And then we usually have, pop, soda, water for sale, and all the funds then go to our fundraising efforts. But sometimes I think that in-person telling our story really touches people, and they can then understand how difficult it is, and the funds are going to a wonderful cause. So those would be the things we're focusing on this year.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I'm going to go to Glenn next. Same question.
I would say tell your story. I think a lot of people have a stigma with talking about it. I know that happens in my family with some members. But if you tell your story, that's going to have the biggest impact. People will respond. People love you. People love the loved one you lost, and that's going to have the greatest draw for you. If you can bring that, people give you compassion, and then they will participate. And that would be my statement.
Really good one. Shannon?
Well, I think I kind of touched on mine a bit. I'm going to keep using my powers for good and influence all of my networks and communities in terms of all those different ambassador teams that I'm building and working with now. So I'm going to continue to do that. That's going to be my number one thing. Another thing that I've been thinking about, and I've been talking to my boss about, I actually just started working for another Blue Cross plan, actually in North Carolina. And the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association has a lot of opportunity for us to lean in terms of what we're doing from a CJD perspective. So looking at what that opportunity is for us specifically around Strides and specifically around raising awareness for CJD in the insurance world with the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association. So those are the two things I'm leaning in this year on. For me, as I've said before, education is sharing my story is the number one thing, to Glenn's point, but educating the medical communities on what happens here, because my story is probably a lot like yours, where my husband was diagnosed with 3 other things, and we had hope, and then we ended up, I'm here tonight, right? So that's one of the biggest things for me, is I don't want to see other families go through what we went through in such a short amount of time. So that's what I'll be focused on this year.
For sharing that. And finally, Mark.
I think this year we're really going to focus on, I kind of touched on it in that last question, is reaching out to the service clubs to make presentations. It's we never miss an opportunity to educate and create awareness and let people know what this disease is with a funny name. And, I think I've heard at the family conference, it's the club that nobody wants to be a member of. but we're a part of it, and people are intrigued when they do hear our stories that we share. But for me, I want to reach out to more of the service clubs this year, educate them. Many of their members are business owners or business leaders, so there's an opportunity maybe to move them and get them involved as a sponsor, come out and be a part of our Strides for CJD Bakersfield Walk.
Those are all such good goals, and hopefully everyone has learned something tonight. Wanted to finish out by sharing a quick screen of some resources that we're going to be sending out to you after this call that are available for you to help with your fundraising efforts. So the first is a brand new, never been seen besides the captains, schedule and outreach templates guide. This is going to be a Word document, so you can easily copy and paste and make edits to the different sections, and use that as a starting place or a bit of inspiration for you to help, tell your story on your profile page, send out your first email, send a text message, remind people about the t-shirt deadline, things like that. We also have a fundraising best practices guide, a sponsorship letter, and a library of images that you can use for social media, or if you want to get creative and make a flyer or print them for your actual walk, those are available for you. So you'll be getting an email after this meeting with all of these resources linked, the webinar recording linked, and also please reach out to the CJD Foundation if you need help or you have questions. The people who work at the foundation are super, super helpful and willing to walk you through everything. And also, I know a lot of our panelists tonight shared that they would also be willing to help you. So please reach out. It is a community, and we are here to support each other.
Yeah, and Christine, I just wanted to say, well, first of all, I want to thank everybody, the panelists and all the attendees for coming. I think that, I hope that you took something, you're able to take something away from this. I think the first takeaway that we want to get across is that the first thing you should do is register for on Strides, register your team or as an individual. Once you do that, I know in your back end of that, you'll see that there are resources there. Fundraising Best Practice Guide is there. And you call us if you need help, setting up that first, team, or as an individual, any help you need, just give us a call. We'll walk you through it. We can help you all the way, but don't get nervous about, anything that's maybe seemed intimidating tonight, because, the platform we use is QGive. It's a peer-to-peer, and we want you to utilize that peer-to-peer, meaning you're going to set up a page and then you can send that link to all your friends. So, and they'll come to your page and they'll, donate, and you can your friends can pass that link, and so on and so forth. That's the idea of the peer-to-peer. And even if that's, if that's all you do, that's great. Just reach out to your network and get the word out and that link, and you're ready to go. And like Christine said, we're here to help. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you. Thank you,
so much.
Christine, Lori, and Rachel, for really pulling all of this together. We really appreciate it.
We appreciate
Happy
you
to do
joining
it.
and sharing all of your amazing insight and best practices.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Have a good night, everyone.
Everyone.